driven by community. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Driven by Community, a Modo car share podcast. Happy Pride Month and happy summer. We're so excited to bring you this month's episode. We sit down with Bianca, Marketing and Communications Manager for the Vancouver Queer Film Festival, and she talks to us all about VQFF and what programming they do year-round that goes beyond the film festival. They also share some of their favorite queer films. Next, we're joined by Mark, Artistic Director of Queer Arts Festival, and he takes us through what the Queer Arts Festival is all about and what makes it unique. The festival runs this year from June 5th to 30th, so make sure you don't miss out. Lastly, we have Modo staff member Nico, fleet and member care expert, provide us with some best practices for getting around during longer Modo trips. He also shares the extra steps and care that the fleet team takes in order to prepare your Modo for a long trip. Let's jump right into the episode.
Hello. My name is Jane Hope. I'm the Director of Marketing at Modo, and I'm joined today with a really special guest from one of our longtime partners, the Vancouver Queer Film Festival. Bianca, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name's Bianca. I am the Marketing Manager at Queer Film Festival, and I'm so excited to be here today.
Oh, we're so excited to have you. So, Modo's been a longtime partner of the Queer Film Festival, but for anyone who hasn't heard of the Vancouver Queer Film Festival before, how would you describe it to a first-timer?
Yeah, I would say it's a space for queer stories and film and art and celebration in which we can all gather and watch queer art together made by queer filmmakers from all over the world. We have the international artists, and then we have our excellent local program. We platform emerging and established filmmakers, and our goal is just to kind of showcase our stories on screen and just show the power of queer filmmaking and how that can make a change in people's lives.
Cool. Thank you. How do people get their film into the Queer Film Festival? What's the submission process?
Yes, so we have our submission process, which actually just closed last month. It's a few months of people can submit their film online. And then we have a panel of film curators who select the films, and they watch through all the films. We get hundreds of submissions, and we try to platform as many different kinds of stories as we can. This year's actually kind of interesting because we have a fellowship program in which we have 3 emerging filmmakers who are supporting us in the selection of films outside from our film selection committee. So it's actually going to be more of a joint effort in terms of the curation, and our senior curators are getting to collaborate with us emerging filmmakers, which is really cool. And I think we'll get lots of different backgrounds and ideas coming on, for the 2026 festival.
That sounds so cool. Beyond the festival, I know VQFF does programming year-round, especially their Out in Schools program. Can you walk us through what those programs look like?
Yes. So basically, school districts can book an Out in Schools presentation in which we have different selected programs in SOGI education and 2S LGBTQIA education. So basically we have some programs called like the basics, in which we screen films and then do discussion panels with students and youth that are also catered to each age group. So each presentation is age appropriate, talking about sexuality, gender expression, how we can better get to know ourselves, but also welcome people of different expressions as well. So we send our educators into different school districts all over BC, and we offer these presentations and content, which is great, especially at the time where there's rise in hate and homophobia, to be able to provide this type of education using film to support intersectionality of queer and youth and kind of getting to know themselves as well, and acceptance. Yeah.
That sounds like such an important program, especially right now. Are there any programs or initiatives or anything that Out in Schools or the Queer Film Festival does that you think don't get enough attention?
I think one of my favorites is definitely the Troublemakers program. So it's basically we select 10 students, 10 youth, ages 12 and up, to basically pair them with queer elders, and the youth gets to create short films showcasing queer elder stories. So it's kind of an intergenerational program, and we equip the youth with all the tools and kind of like how to make a film and film literacy, and how to work the camera, and like how to create a documentary. And it's a beautiful program. We've gotten some amazing films, and I think it's just it doesn't get highlighted enough in terms of the importance of having that intergenerational, like having youth meet queer elders who have lived a queer life and like listening to their stories. I think it's very powerful. But also that coming from a youth lens, which is fresh and emerging, and they can also chime in with their ideas of what a queer future looks like. It's just a great program that we do. That I really love.
I know as a queer woman myself, it's been so important to have the presence of queer elders in my life to just assure me that we are capable of moving ahead and living into a big, bright, beautiful future.
It's going to be okay. Yeah.
It's going to be okay. So if a listener wanted to start exploring queer cinema tonight, where would you send them?
Yes. So I actually made a little list. Mostly lesbian films because that's my community. But one of the first ones I would say is Portrait of a Lady on Fire. That's an awesome film, not just in terms of the story, but like cinematography, the music, the script. It's just beautiful. It's a French film. I have a few fun ones, but I'm a cheerleader. It's about kind of like high school, like discovering your sexuality and like being like, oh, I don't necessarily look like what a queer person's supposed to look like. But yeah, I have these feelings, like, what does that mean? And then from actually last year's VQFF selection, one of my favorite films was called Between Goodbyes, and it's about kind of queer Korean adoption documentary. And the filmmakers came and gave an amazing panel. And then another one from last year's film BQFF selection is A Place Where I Belong, and it's basically about people living with disabilities that are part of the queer community, and also a documentary on like their life and their experiences. I love a good documentary, yeah.
It's such a fun, exciting thing. I was excited to see that the RIA was bringing Hookers on Davy back to the screen, which is very, very important movie for our community and for Vancouver history.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I remember also last year, one of my favorite movies I think I've ever seen was Four Mothers. Which,
I love that movie, yeah.
So good.
That was part of our closing presentation. It was so funny, brilliant. Again, like touching on that like intergenerational aspect as well. Yeah, that was a brilliant film, yeah.
I know the festival's in September, so we're still a little while out, but how could our listeners keep tabs on VQFF and everything you're doing?
Yes, so the festival this year is September 10th to 20th in person, and then the rest of the month online. Yeah, if they want to keep up with us, you can follow Queer Film Fest on Instagram, out in schools as well. Queerfilmfest.ca is our website, so you can find us there. And yeah, we're updating everything right now. We're still a little bit away, but we'll be doing some activations throughout the summer. We're going to be at the Dyke March, boothing there. We're going to be at Squamish Pride. So there's a few really cool activations that we have coming up. So yeah, you can find us there.
I will be excited to see you at the Dyke March and in the theaters come September. Thank you so much for joining us, Bianca.
Thank you so much.
Now changing lanes.
Hi everyone, I'm Fatima from the marketing department, and I'm joined today by Mark, Queer Arts Festival Executive and Artistic Director. Mark, it's an honor having you here, so why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a bit about what is Queer Arts Festival?
Sure. Thanks for having me. My name's Mark, and I'm the Artistic Director of Queer Arts Festival and Some Gallery in Vancouver. And we have a festival coming up this June, from June 5th to 30th, and it's an interdisciplinary arts festival. Queer Arts Festival is kind of unique, actually, in that it is one of only a handful of professional interdisciplinary arts festivals that focus on 2S LGBTQIA plus communities. So we're going to be running a month-long suite of events with visual arts exhibitions and dance performances and music and literary events, film nights. And so, yeah, it's a really broad spectrum of queer creative talent.
And how long has it been happening?
This is going to be our 18th year, so it's quite exciting. I've been artistic director since 2021, and so this is my 5th festival. And it's kind of cool because we're already thinking about the 20th. It's only a couple of years away now, and it's going to be a big ride, I think. So it's going to be So this is our 18th year, but we actually go back as far as 1998. The organization began around 1998 as a sort of a community visual arts exhibition at the Roundhouse, and every year it's grown since then. And so this is year 18 of our official existence as a festival.
That is amazing. I love that. Personally, I can't wait to attend this year's festival. I'm so excited. Looking at like all the programs you guys have, it's so exciting. So compared to last year, are there like any new programs or any new events that you guys are having, or?
Yeah, we've expanded our events since last year, and it's interesting. We've expanded our events, but we're also sort of focusing more on a sense of place this year than I'd say in previous years. Most of our activities and events, they take place in Chinatown on the downtown east side. That's where we have our gallery. We've got a year-round gallery called Some Gallery, and that's going to be our headquarters for the month of June. And we're kind of spreading out from there. So we are partnering with a lot of local organizations, Vancouver International Jazz Festival, the Dance Center, the Canadian Music Center, Full Circle First Nations Performance, and we are presenting a whole suite of events that are interdisciplinary in nature. I'd say one of the highlights that is different this year is we're coming back to literary events and spoken word events. So on June 6th, we have a night of storytelling, and this is curated by Danny Ramadan, and it features literary artists from Vancouver, Amber Dawn, Aaron Chan, Jazz Papadopoulos, and Jay Simpson. And these events, they tend to be very raunchy, actually. They're really they really push the edge of the intersections between the literary world and queerness. And so we're excited to be doing that. It's the first time, I think, since 2019 since we presented this, and so it's really exciting to be revisiting this. And for me, it's the first time that I'm working with Danny Ramadan, so that's been really cool. Our opening night is on June 5th. It's just the night before. So June 5th is the opening of the festival. It's going to be at the Sunwa Center, which is at 268 Kiefer Street in Chinatown. And we're basically taking over the entire 4th floor. We're sort of transforming it into the theme this year is On the Edge. And the idea of that is it's a serious theme, but being handled very playfully. It's recognizes that queer and trans communities have been sort of pushed to the edge in the last few years, but the precipice is actually where a lot of creativity is born. So we decided it's a theme we really want to lean into, and so we have this on the edge theme that sort of is going to be percolating throughout the entire festival. Weirdly, a secondary theme that sort of came up just kind of organically is this one of tarot. So we're going to have tarot readings on opening night alongside free ice cream and 2 visual arts exhibitions openings.
I love that. That sounds so fun, and I absolutely love the theme. Kind of following upon that, I think you kind of mentioned that before, but I'm curious, what makes the Queer Arts Festival different from other festivals?
Queer Arts Festival when it was founded, it was possibly the only queer-mandated arts festival in the world. Since then, there have been other festivals popping up. There's a Queer Arts Festival in Melbourne, Australia. There's another one in Antwerp. But really, they're few and far between. And so in that sense, it's a very special festival. It's very rare. I mean, I know we're all familiar with Pride festivals and things like that, but to have a professional arts festival that's specifically focused on 2S LGBTQIA plus artists is actually quite rare. So it really is a unique perspective in that sense.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that. That's great. And if people wanted to, how can they get to know the festival more?
Yeah. So we have a website, of course. It's queerartsfestival.com, and as soon as you click that, you'll see all of our events that are going to be presented this year. You can also follow us online. We're at Queer Arts on Instagram and on TikTok as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mark, for coming. And it was lovely to have this discussion with you.
Thanks so much, Fatima. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Now changing lanes. Hey, it's Kelly from the marketing team, and I'm here with Nico, member care and fleet expert, who's going to go through some important tips and tricks for anyone planning to do any multi-day long road trips. Nico, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, Kelly. Yes. So I used to be part of our member care team as one of the subject matter experts, and now I've moved into fleet operations, and I'm part of the locations planning coordination team.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today. So with summer here, many people are planning to go on vacation, longer road trips, and really explore the beautiful province that we're in. What are some things that you think all members should know before taking a multi-day extended trip?
Yes. So a few important tips. One of the things is on our website, we have what's called the trip calculator, which is a great tool for getting estimates on what the time and distance would cost you for some of these longer bookings. That way you can kind of take a look to see and you can plan ahead. We allow members to book trips up to a year in advance. So if you have a trip that you have upcoming that you're planning, book it as far in advance as possible. That way you can make sure you get the right vehicle at the right location for yourself. If you need a trip that's longer than 10 days, you can call into our member care team. They'll be able to help set that up for you.
Yeah, no, that's great. So can you share some maybe best practices for people who are taking longer trips?
Definitely, yes. So you would want to, first when you arrive at the vehicle, you want to make sure that you're doing your pre-trip inspection. If you notice any kind of damage on the vehicle, you can report that either by email or through our app. Once you're on the trip, if any issues do come up, 24/7 you can give our member care team a call and they'll be able to help with any issues. We ask that members, if they can, give us as much notice as possible for their upcoming long trips. That can give our fleet team the time to visit the vehicle, make sure it's all ready for the trip. The vehicles, of course, are cleaned and maintained on a regular service schedule. Things like accessories like child seats or EV charging cables, if you're going to be taking an EV vehicle, if you give us enough notice, we can help put those in the cars for those trips.
Yeah, I guess overall it's communicate early with our member care team and stuff, and just if there's any issues, make sure you reach out. Don't wait until it's a week after your trip and you're actually, I noticed there was a giant crack in the windshield. It's well, we don't know if you did that. We don't, right? And that was probably not safe for your trip if you were driving like that. So just always reach out. Our member care team is available.
Exactly.
Big shout out to the fleet team and the member care team for really during our busy season, they are very much the backbone of our co-op, being able to make sure members are able to get to where they need to go or where they want to go. So yeah, I guess last question for you today is, do you have any favorite road trip spots or long trips that you've taken in the past or want to take this summer?
Yes. So in the past and probably this summer as well, I've gone to the last couple of summers. A couple of my friends and I have gone to Birkenhead Lake, just up near kind of Squamish area.
Nice. Yeah.
It's a pretty nice campground, lovely lake. So looking forward to that again.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. I feel it'll be a good time to get out of the city this summer with the large soccer tournament that's going to be happening in the city. Thank you so much, Nico, for taking the time to share some great tips and tricks for our members.
Thank you, Kelly.
That's all for our June episode. As always, thank you for listening. Driven by Community is brought to you in partnership with the Cooperators. Modo members can take full advantage of preferred rates through the Cooperators Member Benefits Program. Check out the Modo Perks page for more details. Driven by Community was edited by me, Kelly Zhang, and produced by Fatima Porsayed and Jane Hope. If you have any feedback or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. Just email podcast@modo.coop. See you next month. Until then, thanks for sharing.